There should be a pop-up.
Yes, I have it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. I think we are now live. Yeah.
That's right. We are live on the internet.
That's exciting.
All right, I'm gonna open the waiting room now. And in fact,
Yes.
I'm gonna disable the waiting room
Okay. Brilliant.
so that we don't have to fret about it anymore.
Hello, hello. Welcome.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Hey, Annette. Wow, welcome. Hello from Germany. Please make yourself comfortable. We'll start up in just a few minutes. Hey, Annette, how are you?
I'm fine. Wonderful to be able to join you.
That's great. Thank you so much for joining us. I saw your name on the list. It's been a few years.
Yeah, I'm in Berlin at the moment.
Oh.
Wonderful. Good. Yeah. If you know anyone who would like to take the MSc course, the timing of the Sunday evening here in Thailand and Singapore is perfect for
It's
people in
perfect
Germany.
for Europe. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have any clients you'd like to refer,
Yeah,
please.
I'll definitely think of you for sure.
Thanks, Annette, and thanks for letting me make a pitch.
Thank you. And this is the beauty of Zoom, right? With people from all over the world joining us, even from Germany, from Europe.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why, actually, to be honest, and it's I know that Karen and I both love the diversity of the groups we get now that we can do it on Zoom. I mean, I loved doing the program live. But I don't think I'll go back to doing it live because the groups we get on Zoom are amazing. They're so diverse and people benefit so much when you have people from Singapore, Thailand, Australia, Hong Kong, and the occasional European.
Occasional European.
all in the course together. Not just in the webinars. It's so amazing when we do these little groups of 20. Anyway, so glad you could join us, Annette. And welcome everyone.
Welcome everyone. Thank you all for being here on a Sunday. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, please make yourself comfortable. We welcome you. We will be asking some questions, but you can participate in the chat if you like. If you'd like to say hello and let us know where you are in the chat, by all means, please feel free. We will try to start on time, but of course it's Zoom, so we're going to let a few minutes for people to come in.
Hi, Kelly. Hello. Thanks for saying hi via chat. Where are you from, Kelly? From Malaysia. Welcome. Welcome, Kelly. Wonderful. I think quite a number of our friends here are from Malaysia. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I think an influencer on social media in Malaysia, Karen. So for this webinar, we got a lot of folks signing up in Malaysia, which is wonderful.
I think the wonderful thing about, social media and Zoom is that, we can have friends from so many different backgrounds being together in the same space, right? Without having to travel. Yeah.
I'm going to take your word for it, since, as you know, Karen, I'm not on any social media.
You're on LinkedIn.
It's true. That is, I don't think of it as social media. Anyway, hi, Han. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for being here, Han. Hi, Kate.
Hi, Kate.
All right. Shall we get started, Ben?
I feel like we're sharing a brain, Karen, because I was just
Yes,
thinking the same thing. And
just
you know
spread your
what?
mind.
Because we do have so much to share. And even though Karen and I have done our very best to keep it a good pace and to cut it back, we're probably even going to run over a few minutes, especially we have a chance to do some Q&A with you all, which is one of our favorite parts. But let's just start. Let's just start by taking a moment to arrive with some kindness. So let me just invite you in any way that makes sense for you, if you have a way of kind of arriving in the present moment, to do that now. And if you like, ignoring the words that I'll provide next. But if you like, you could also take a moment to just breathe a few times with your eyes open or your eyes closed. And just take a moment to gather your wandering human awareness and bring it back gently to feel your body breathing right here, right now. You don't need to judge that breath or control it in any way, because you can trust your body to breathe. You might also just like to notice anything you can notice in your body right now, any emotions, any sensations, any vibrations, any energy, whatever you notice. See if you could just let it be, just for one breath. You don't need to work on it. You don't need to change it or control it. Just letting it be like this, letting yourself be as you are right now, just for one breath. And if it feels right for you, if it feels like something you could do without any effort, gently curving up the corners of your mouth, a very little bit, kind of sensing a smile from the inside out, and just taking a moment to notice how the energy of this expression feels. And maybe even directing some of that energy to yourself for taking time on a Sunday to get online and come to a webinar. Maybe feeling this as an expression of appreciation for you. And then take one more breath. Open your eyes or reorient yourself to the screen. Welcome everyone to the session. My name is Ben Weinstein. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I'm speaking to you right now from Bangkok, Thailand, where I've been living for the last 20 years. I'm kind of a working clinical psychologist. I'm adjunct lecturer at Chiang Mai University. I'm a certified teacher of mindful self-compassion, and I'm teaching faculty in the online certification program, Self-Compassion and Psychotherapy, where I have the honor of teaching alongside Christopher Germer, Kristen Neff, Paul Gilbert, and other luminaries of the self-compassion world. And it's where we share how to integrate self-compassion into psychotherapy, which is something that I'm, as a clinician and a human being, very excited about. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Karen?
Hi everyone, my name is Karen, and thank you so much for being here on a Sunday as well.
Karen, can you unmute, please?
Whoopsie, okay.
Now
So
that's
I
my fault.
think
There was a participant I needed to mute, and I
it's
accidentally
okay.
muted you. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, it's a good chance for us to practice self-compassion with
Self-compassion.
that little technical hiccup. Yeah. Yes. And allow me to thank all of you once again, right, for being here on a Sunday evening. Really appreciate it. You could be out, having fun or just chilling at home to relax. And all of you choose to be here today to learn how to empower yourself and your clients. Yeah, and we really appreciate that. And I feel very privileged and excited today to share more about this self-compassion skills, which I find extremely helpful in supporting myself and my clients. And I'm a clinical psychologist now, practicing at Alliance Counseling. And I'm also teaching at various universities such as Yale and US, NTU, and Sigmund Freud University. So wearing many different hats. And I'm also a trained mindful self-compassion teacher. So like what Ben said, besides being a clinician and also being an educator and first and foremost a human, right? First and foremost human. And what this means is that, there are times where I feel difficult emotions and there are times I might feel inadequate as well. And I think self-compassion is something that has really supported me in my journey, both professional as well as my personal journey. And that's why I'm so passionate about teaching this as well. And as healthcare professionals, I think we talk about self-care a lot, right? Not just, with our clients, but also within our teams as well and with one another. And we talk about the importance of putting on our own oxygen mask, right? And to me, mindful self-compassion is really like the oxygen mask, right? It's so essential, for us to be able to care for ourselves as we continue in this hard work, right? Yeah. And I'm guessing all of you here as well, believe in the power of self-compassion. That's why you choose to be here on a Sunday. Yeah. And without further ado, I'll hand the time over to Ben.
Thank you, Karen. So I want you to think about your clients for a moment as a group. Think about your clients, because we're going to, in this workshop, we're not only going to introduce some concepts, we're going to try and give you a taste of the soup so you can get a feel for it. And I suspect that many of you have already had a taste here or there, but we don't just want to talk about it. We want to give you a chance to actually try it a little bit and see how you might be able to use it with clients, knowing that this webinar is just an introduction. We're just going to be glossing on the surface, but hopefully we'll point you in the direction of other resources as well. Thinking about your clients, I want you to ask yourself this: what percentage of your clients exhibit one of the following? A, stigma, right? The stigma of, and there's stigma the minute anybody asks, am I normal? Is this normal? That question, that's stigma, right? And of course, stigma's terribly painful cousin, shame. So what percentage of your clients are dealing with, and that may not be their presenting issue, but it's part of the package, right? Stigma, shame, or intense self-criticism or self-blame. What percentage? So thinking of all your clients, what percentage of your clients, and can I ask you guys to write in the chat, what percentage of your caseload, your current caseload or your general caseload or around, across the years, what percentage of your clients are dealing with at least one of those three, if not more? Stigma, shame, harsh self-criticism, self-blame. Taken all together. Okay. Lillian, hello, says 80%. Thanks for joining us, Lillian. Venkatesh, 80%. Kelly, 100%, 90%, 80%, 100%, right? 70%. Thanks, Maite, Tiara, Kate, Michelle. Right. And this is probably on top of some other diagnosis, right? Major depression, bipolar, CPTSD, PTSD, right? And just think about this. What if you could offer them something that could, within a few sessions, release that burden of stigma and shame and self-criticism? How would their lives be different? And what would change for them if, even without changing the other piece, that piece were gone? Because this is part of the promise of self-compassion. It's what Karen and I are going to talk about today. And it's one of the reasons that it really increases the speed and effectiveness of therapy. You know, the question of course, I'm not going to ask is how many of us, how many of us deal with our own stigma, our own shame, our own self-criticism and self-blame, right? Our sense of over-responsibility, right? But we can also look at that because we are not different than our clients. We are fish swimming in the same water, in the same ocean of being alive as humans. So to begin, we'd like to introduce the basic model that we work with.
Thank you so much, Ben. I love how you said that actually we are not so different from our clients in many ways, right? And that is an important common humanity aspect, which I'm also going to talk about as well. So first and foremost, I'd like to share with you Christine's Neff model, which has these three components to self-compassion. So first is mindfulness. So mindfulness is having this awareness, of our difficult thoughts or difficult feelings, or just awareness of our struggles. Because if we are not aware of our struggles, how can we then, choose to give ourselves compassion, right? So it's really being aware of what is going on in the present moment and accepting them as they are. And also there is this balanced awareness of it. So, being in touch with this storylines in our mind, perhaps not being good enough, or maybe this story of our mind that we are defective, and being aware of it and not over-identifying with it, right? Which is something that, a lot of our clients or ourselves as healthcare professionals, we experience as well. And next is common humanity. So when we struggle, there's a lot of the stories that mention, what's wrong with me, right? Am I defective? Am I abnormal, right? And all the stories in our mind often make us feel very isolated and cut off from other people, right? And when we recognize that, hey, actually our struggles are just part of the general human experience, we will tend to feel less isolated, and also we can feel more connected to others as a whole. And see that actually, whatever that we are going through is actually, just being human. Yeah. And last but not least is self-kindness. Right, self-kindness essentially is treating ourselves just like how we would treat a dear friend, right? So a lot of times, we can say a lot of mean words to ourselves that we wouldn't even tell any strangers, right? And being able to soothe ourselves, comfort ourselves, and give ourselves permission to access what we need is self-kindness. And there is an action component to self-kindness as well, to self-compassion. So it's not about, just a theoretical concept. It's also taking action to assess what we need. So maybe, we have been working for the whole day where we haven't had any lunch, any food, right, or any rest, and we feel exhausted. So being kind to ourselves is just allowing ourselves to take a break. Yeah. And there are two kinds of self-compassion. So one is tender self-compassion and one is the fierce, firm compassion. So a lot of times people think like, self-compassion is just tender, it's airy-fairy, it's just something that's soft, right? But it's not totally true. Yeah, there's the tender compassion part, and there also is the firm compassion part. So for instance, with the invasion of Ukraine, the war that's going on in Ukraine now, quite a lot of activists are protesting against that, right? And that is a fierce kind of compassion, right? And similarly, when we advocate ourselves, we're also practicing self-compassion as well, fierce self-compassion. So in this diagram, we can see there's this mama bear there, right? So using the analogy, you can see that when the baby bear is hurt or being sad, the mama bear is comforting and hugging the baby bear, right? And that is a form of tender, soft compassion, just being with the pain, soothing and comforting the baby bear. Yeah.
Karen, do you want to advance your slide?
Oh, Oops, I don't know why the screen is all right. Today the Zoom god is not with us, yeah?
I know, right? No, you're doing great. So you're talking about the mama bear and the baby bear.
Yeah. Somehow when I share the fear self-compassion slide, the screen sharing is paused. But this is possible. I mean, you can see this, right? When I press play, is gone though. Can you
No,
see
we
the
see
mama
it now.
bear?
We see it now.
Okay, fantastic. Okay. So the fierce self-compassion is about taking action to reduce our suffering. So for instance, if the baby bear is being attacked by a tiger or a lion, the mama bear will immediately growl and be very fierce in order to protect the baby bear, right? And this is, a very important way to protect ourselves and others as well by employing this fierce compassion. So this fierce compassion of elements of protection. So sort of drawing boundaries and saying no when harm is coming our way, or to provide and say yes to our needs, and also to motivate ourselves and also to change the world. For instance, the activists, right? They're aligned with our values as well. And the synthesis of both tender compassion and fierce self-compassion can help us to thrive and flourish in our lives. Yeah. So without just going into the theoretical aspect, I would invite all of you right now to do something what we call the self-compassion break. All right. So please get into a comfortable position wherever you are. It can be sitting down or lying on the chair. I mean, lying on the bed, right? Or lying on the couch. Yeah. And just settling in and just allowing yourself to close your eyes. And if it feels right, you can place a hand on your heart or any part of the body that feels soothing and comforting for yourself. And just start off by taking 3 slow, deep breaths. And just letting go of whatever tension that we are holding in our bodies right now. I'd like to invite all of you to think of a problem in your life that's stressing you out now. So it can be a work problem, a relationship problem, or a health problem. So nothing too stressful, right? On a scale of 0 to 10, something about 4 to 5 in intensity. And just seeing whether there is some discomfort and stress in your body when you think about the situation. If you experience any form of stress or discomfort, you can tell yourself, gosh, that is so stressful. And that is mindfulness. Other options might include, ouch, this hurts. This is really difficult. And next, you can say to yourself, this is just part of the human experience. I'm not alone in feeling this way. And that is common humanity. And next is to show yourself some kindness and compassion. May I be kind to myself. May I give myself what I need. So a tender compassion might sound like, may I care for myself tenderly in this moment. Fierce compassion might sound something like, may I have the strength and the courage to make a change. And just checking in with yourself, what is it that you need now? Is it tender or fierce self-compassion? And if it's difficult to come up with any words, imagine your friend going through a similar situation, struggling the same way. What is it that you would say to your friend, heart to heart, without giving any advice? For instance, it's okay. I'm here with you. I've got your back. And this is self-kindness. And whenever you're ready, gently letting go of this practice and opening up your eyes again, coming back to our brave space together. Yeah. And thank you all for doing this practice with me.
Thanks so much, Karen. Yeah, so that's a sample of the self-compassion break, and it's a wonderful example of how the elements of Kristen Neff's model in the 3 steps that Karen just beautifully guided us in: mindfulness, common humanity, self-kindness. These are not theoretical constructs. Each one of these 3 is a reality that can be touched, and we can learn how to touch them depending on what we need. We learn how to cultivate them and have them in our lives at the moments that we need them. So I want to, now that Karen's introduced the model, I want to talk about this idea of empowerment, right? How this is empowering, because we have the good fortune to be therapists at a very special moment in the history of psychotherapy. During a period of tremendous convergence. For much of the history of psychotherapy, we have lived in little theoretical boxes. whether, depending on what graduate school we went to or what professors we had or where we learned, we've gravitated to our little boxes, our little cognitive behavioral box, or our little Gestalt or family systems box or psychodynamic box, these kind of standard clinical models, many of which were developed 50, 60, 100 years ago. And they tend to place some limits on us. And they're also, none of the boxes capture the full spectrum of a human experience in a adequate way. And what we're actually seeing is a time of convergence of looking more at processes that make psychotherapy effective, right? In fact, Stephen Hayes and his research team have just published an enormous study. They call it the Death Star study, where they reviewed 55,000. They screened 55,000 published randomized control trials to end up with 700 of very high quality that study mediational variables. That means the things that influence how therapy is effective. We know that therapy works regardless of which kind, right? And so, for example, we know one of the things that makes therapy work is relationship, right? Having a positive relationship with a therapist, regardless of the therapist theory, helps clients, right? That's trans-theoretical, right? Mindfulness is another trans-theoretical variable, and self-compassion, the ability to support ourselves like a good friend, to take care of all the little cubs, all the little baby bears that live in our own hearts, right? To hug them tenderly when they need that, or to fiercely stand up for them when they need that. That's trans-theoretical, right? This is this idea of being a good friend to ourselves. Not only is self-compassion trans-theoretical, it is trans-diagnostic. And hopefully I can go into such a rant about diagnosis, right? But the DSM model has turned out to be a dead end for psychology and psychotherapy. And for the last 40 years, the DSM model has led to a focus on syndromes and syndrome-based treatment. But people don't come in. A person is not a diagnosis. The diagnosis can help us organize our treatment. But we have a tendency to start thinking about people in these reductionist ways. And also, if you look at the DSM, you'll see that many of the key symptoms of the DSM, they actually appear in many different diagnoses. For example, avoidance. If you think about avoidance, you see avoidance in virtually every single mood disorder. What does that mean, that these disorders, so-called disorders that we've labeled as disorders, all have a similar set of symptoms? And of course, I was just listening to a talk, and the speaker spoke about a recent study of major depression, where they actually looked at symptom profiles in major depression. Because, again, whatever, according to the DSM, there are 12 symptoms of major depression, or whatever that number is. There were 3,500 adults in that. 3,500 adults in that study. There were more than 1,000 different combinations of symptoms. That means 1,000 unique presentations of depression, right? The speaker said, this idea that this label major depression probably conceals more than it tells us. Every single client is a world in and of themselves when they walk in the room. And sometimes we're doing a disservice by operating from within our own box and trying to force the client into a diagnostic box. I think we may be reaching a world when we're going to have more idionomic-based therapy. That is to say, therapy that's adapted for every single client based on the client's life. And self-compassion is something that will fit in with that. And of course, that's tremendously empowering, because self-compassion transcends these standard models and mindsets that we've all been trained to. So self-compassion represents a core mechanism of change, regardless of what model you're operating from. And we know that it seems to operate through two pathways, right? It enhances well-being by improving self-regulation and acceptance of painful experience. You can refer back to your own experience just now of the self-compassion break. What was it like to bring up a painful moment and meet that painful moment? And then secondly, fierce self-compassion can enhance self-direction and engagement. For rewarding experiences, I'm going to talk about that a little bit later in this webinar when I talk about interventions. Now, how do we use this for ourselves as clinicians and with clients? We think of self-compassion, especially when we work inside Kristen Neff's model and then the model she later elaborated with Christopher Germer to develop the Mindful Self-Compassion program. We think about self-compassion as resource building. Our traditional diagnostic mindset has been deficit-based. The client's missing something and needs to be fixed. In a resource building model, we think of it as capacity-based. The thing the client needs, they already have. Mindfulness, common humanity, and self-kindness are actually resources you already have and each one of your clients already has. It just might be underdeveloped. Just like every human, more or less every human body is born with the set of muscles we need to live. In the course of our lives, some of those muscles may be well developed, some of those muscles may be underdeveloped, some of those muscles may not have been developed at all or may have suffered injury. So this is a different model. We think the client already has the muscles they need. We just need to get them to use those muscles. So in this traditional model, in the traditional mindset, the authority about the client comes from outside the client, right? I know what's wrong with you. I'm the expert, and I'm going to guide you and tell you how to fix it. So the authority is external. In a self-compassion-based model, the authority comes from the client themselves. It comes from their awareness of their own lived experience, and they can become their own teacher and guide. As Karen was saying when she led you in the self-compassion break, asking yourself the question, when I'm feeling this way, when I'm encountering this kind of difficult situation as part of being human, what do I need? What do I need to hear? I probably don't need to learn how to be kind, because if I saw a friend in that situation, I would try to support my friend. I would go to my friend and I say, what do you need right now? What can I do for you? Right? It's just taking that, you have the resource of kindness. It's just bringing that resource home for ourselves. So in this kind of self-compassion based model, when we use self-compassion as an active process of change, the thing that you've been searching for yourself and your clients is something you already are, and it's something you already have. There's nothing more empowering than that, to realize that what we need, we can start to give ourselves a little bit of if we just listen to our own experiences. And then, of course, there's a second way, which is this common humanity perspective that Karen's already mentioned to you, which is whatever it is that we experience is part of being human. And this is why the DSM is so distorting. Because again, if you look at the lifetime prevalence of DSM-4 disorders, so-called DSM disorders, the lifetime prevalence in the general population is between 30 and 50%, including things like suicidal ideation. At some point in their lives, roughly 40 to 50% of the general population report that at one point or another, they had some kind of suicidal ideation. This is a very powerful thought, because I don't know about you, but if 30% of the population experience something, that's not a disorder, right? Is being blonde a disorder? And I think less than 20% of the population is blonde, right? Are other kinds of differences? And we've always had a tendency to label differences as disorder, right? Versus recognizing that there are differences, and all of our differences are part of being human, especially a lot of the things we struggle with, like feeling shameful or defective. Whenever we feel something, there's a lot of other people who are feeling the same way. And it's so important to recognize that. So there's immediately a perspective that we can practice that destigmatizes psychological and emotional pains and difficulties. And this is incredibly powerful. Karen and I have both seen how this works in teaching the self-compassion training that we both provide and in working with our individual clients. This is incredibly empowering to clients when we're able to convey this. And then this transcends our normalizing. We're going much deeper than just normalizing. right? To really be able to send the message, you're not defective, you're human. This is something incredibly powerful. Oopsie daisies, did I just stop sharing my screen? I think I have one more slide. Nope. So there's empowerment is built into the fabric of self-compassion. And now we're going to talk about the model that we can use to start to integrate self-compassion into our clinical work.
Thank you so much, Ben. So all of you here, come from very different backgrounds. So you might be doing CBT, or you might be doing, psychodynamic or schema, third wave CBT, etc. So, you might have this question popping up in your mind, right? So how can I, help clients to become more self-compassionate, practice it in my own way? So we are not saying, you totally just throw away all that you are practicing now. No, right? It's how can you integrate, compassionate approach into the way that you're already practicing, right? So we introduced these 3 levels, and this is compassionate presence, compassionate alliance, and compassionate intervention, right? So we'll just start off with compassionate presence. So what does that mean, having this compassionate presence? So it really is about being open and receptive to our clients' world, right? Being able to actually sense what they are saying or even not saying, right? And also as therapists, being able to actually attune inwardly to our resonance with our clients. And this will actually help us to hold them in more compassionate awareness. And next is compassionate alliance. And like what Ben said just now, the relationship is actually the most important part, right? And we know, according to literature, 30% of the therapeutic gain is actually due to relationship, the alliance as well, right? So being able to build that relationship with your clients is actually very, very crucial. Yeah. And last but not least is compassionate intervention. And why I put it, at the top is because the foundation of compassionate presence and compassionate alliance, they need to be there already before, you can think about even doing some interventions, right? So sometimes we think, oh, why is my client, not actually practicing the interventions that we talked about, or not, engaged or willing to try out what we talked about. So just going back to the compassionate alliance and compassionate presence is very crucial, right? And in the following, slides, we would then go into more detail what the 3 levels would entail. Yeah. So back to you, Ben.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, so now we're going to try and give you a taste. We're going to try and introduce each one of these 3 levels, and we've chosen a practice to help you kind of practice it with a client here in this context. And at the end, we'll also ask you about your experiences later and for some Q&A. So I'm going to talk about compassionate presence. And, compassionate presence relies on being fully present with our clients, right? Being kind of aware, open, and available. Our own psychological defenses are down, and we're able to listen, truly listen non-judgmentally. But of course, because we're human beings, and there's a whole physiology to this that we don't have time to go into today, there are times when we have our defenses up. We get closed off. We become unavailable. And you might just start to think about, what are the moments for you? What are the moments, or who are the clients for whom you're feeling kind of defenses down or defenses up? Remembering, again, if you start to hear a little bit of a self-critical voice there, just take a moment to acknowledge some common humanity of this. It's not you. It's part of being human and doing the difficult work that we do as therapists. So take a moment, and maybe you can just write real quickly in the chat, how do you know when you're fully present and open and your defenses are down? Their one word. How do you, what, or you could just write it down for yourself. It doesn't have to be, we don't have to share. How do you know when you're present? And also, how do you know when you're closed? How do you know when you're all of a sudden like, there are moments when we're really with and we're connected with our clients, and there's other moments when all of a sudden we kind of close up. How does it feel energetically? Because frequently our attention's so focused on the client, we don't notice what's happening right here in our own human hearts and bodies. It's very interesting. Now, here are some examples of the obstacles to presence. I know I teach a workshop where we go into this in much greater detail and we do more self-analysis, but our own automatic judgments and evaluations, our own automatic critical thinking and analyzing, where we're criticizing ourselves. Oh, I'm not a good enough therapist. I'm not doing it right. Am I going to be able to help them? I don't know how to deal with this. I never encountered this before. Our own habitual automatic fears of being vulnerable in front of the client, perhaps when the client challenges us. Other ways of feeling threatened or judged, we become defensive, which this is all part of the work. If you work as a counselor, you have experienced all of these. I know that I have. For many years, I used to become very defensive when clients would come in a fourth or fifth session and say, I don't think this therapy is working for me. I remember I was not very good at handling that. So I'd be like, well, that must mean I'm a bad therapist. So actually, no, you're just doing it wrong kind of response. But something we really need to acknowledge and respect is many of our psychological responses are automatic and habitual. They arise from our conditioning and from our nervous system. And if we learn to recognize this, we can learn to cultivate a different kind of presence, because we can add compassion to our own presence, to our own experience for ourselves. In just the same way that Karen led us earlier, we can be aware of what we're experiencing in the moment. We can recognize the reactions we're having as part of being human, not at all part of being a bad therapist. They're part of being a normal human being. And responding to ourselves as a supportive friend at a moment of difficulty in the session. We don't have to wait and go somewhere else to peer supervision. We can actually cultivate the ability to do this at the moment that we're sitting with the client. And the way we do that is to ground ourselves and tune in with compassion by recognizing myself as human and supporting myself like a friend. So let's practice it right now. So we're going to do these two things. We're going to ground, we're going to visualize a client, we're going to ground, and we're going to tune in. So let me invite you again to begin. And I also want to invite you to notice where you're at energetically at this moment. If you're feeling tired or you're not feeling up for it, please consider giving yourself permission to not do this exercise. We'll provide a recording of this and you could do it later, because this is a form of self-compassion. When you give yourself permission to not push yourself, that can be a form of powerful self-compassion. But if you do feel ready to practice this, let me invite you to close your eyes and visualize a client that you've been finding challenging or difficult. As a beginner, please do not visualize your most difficult client. And this might be a client that's triggering some reaction of your own. This might be a client that's challenging you. This might be a client you're feeling confused by or frustrated with. I frequently start to feel frustrated, and that is a big obstacle for me. So just take a moment to visualize yourself in the room with that client at one of these difficult moments. Seeing the client's face and their body language, hearing their voice. What does this client usually say? And how do you respond? And in this visualization, let's just take a moment to ground. take a moment to use your awareness to feel yourself sitting in your chair. Feel your back, feel your seat. Feel that solid contact for just 1 or 2 breaths. And now take a moment to tune in to yourself and notice your own energy. Scan through your face, your neck, your chest, your tummy. Just noticing what's happening in your body right now. You might also notice your thoughts. And just for 1 breath, let yourself be. Just allow it. Just breathe in and out and say, I allow myself to be feeling this way right now. Take 2 breaths to really recognize that you too are human. Maybe saying to yourself, whatever I'm feeling, this is just part of being human. This is hard stuff to come in contact with suffering. I'm not broken. I'm not a bad therapist. I'm human. And then again, maybe even putting a hand over your heart, or if imagining that you're sitting with a client, just putting a hand on your leg and touching your own side and feeling that as a supportive gesture. And imagine kind words you might say to a good friend at this moment. What would those words be? Seeing if you could offer a little bit of that kindness to yourself. And then bringing the client back into the picture and looking at the client again on this side. Once you've offered yourself some kindness for the reactions that you are having. Do you feel more present when you've done that? And then releasing the practice. And just taking a moment to soak that in. And let me ask people, let me ask people to just write in the chat in 1 or 2 words, what do you notice when you visualize a client and your reaction to a challenging or difficult moment with a client? What do you notice in yourself when you do this practice while visualizing a client? Just in 1 or 2 words, please, in the chat. Jenny noticed some fear, a bit stressed, frustration. And how was it to practice grounding and allowing and recognizing yourself as human? What impact did it have to offer yourself to cultivate a compassionate presence? Michelle found it soothing. How about others? Ron, with a great word there, right? De-escalating, right? When our emotions and being out of balance or feeling unsoothed prevent us from being present, only because we're human, not because we're bad therapists. And being able to soothe and de-escalate and reassert balance in ourselves helps us to be more present, fully present and available with the client, on which we can build that compassionate connection and relationship, which Karen is going to talk about and share a practice with you now.
Thank you, Ben. So now we'll go on to the second level, which is cultivating this compassionate alliance or relationship with the client. So it's being able to still stay in connection with the clients while, still giving ourselves compassion, right? Really putting on our own oxygen mask as well. Yeah. And I invite all of you to, again, do this practice with me. Okay. So again, just getting into a comfortable position. right? Maybe adjusting yourself and getting into the most comfortable position as it can be right now for you. Yeah. And just allowing yourself to close your eyes. Again, if it feels right for you, you can offer yourself a soothing touch, a hand on your heart, or a hand on your belly, any part of your body that feels comforting and soothing for yourself. And this is a reminder to bring not just awareness, but also loving awareness to your experience and to yourself. And now taking few slow, relaxing deep breaths. And just noticing how your breath nourishes your body as you inhale and soothes your body as you exhale. And letting go of any effort or any urge to control your breath. And just allowing your breathing to find its own natural, soothing rhythm. And just continuing to feel the sensation of breathing in and breathing out. Very much like the movement of the sea. And just allowing yourself to be gently rocked and nourished by this soothing rhythm of your breath. And now focusing your attention on your in-breath only. And just letting yourself savor the sensation of breathing. One breath after another. And perhaps noticing how your in-breath nourishes and energizes your body. And if you like, as you breathe in, breathing in kindness and compassion for yourself. And just feeling the quality of kindness as you breathe in. And now shifting your focus to your out breath. And just feeling your body breathe out. Feeling the ease of exhalation. And now calling to mind perhaps a client who is struggling and needs compassion. And just visualizing that client clearly in your mind. And begin directing your out breath to this client, offering the ease of breathing out. And if you wish, sending kindness and compassion to this client with each out breath. One breath after another. If it's easier, you can breathe out to your clients in general, rather than visualizing a particular client. And now focusing again on the sensation of breathing both in and out. And just savoring the sensation of breathing in and breathing out. And beginning to breathe in for yourself and out for the other person or your client. In for me and out for you. One for me and one for you. And as you breathe, drawing kindness and compassion in for yourself and sending something good out to your client or your clients in general. And if you're feeling exhausted, please feel free to give yourself more. Adjusting the balance between breathing in and out. So it can be 5 for me and 1 for you. Or 100 for me and 1 for you. whatever balance that feels right to you in this moment. Just letting go of any effort. Your body is wise and it knows how to breathe. In for me and out for you. And just allowing your breath to flow in and out, like the ocean going in and out. A limitless, boundless flow. And just including yourself in this ocean of compassion. In for me and out for you. Now gently letting go of this practice. And whenever you're ready, opening up your eyes again and coming back to our space together. And if you like to, you can stretch your body, have a drink of water. Yeah, checking in with yourself, what you need in this moment, and giving yourself permission to assess that. And thank you so much for doing this practice with me. And
And
whenever you're ready, yeah, sorry. I
no,
was just wondering, yeah, if anyone would like to share how that was like for you, you can just input one word into the chat. Very relaxing. Thank you, Han. Almost fell asleep. Okay. Maybe what your body needs is rest. A relief, grounding, invigorating, calmer and more in tune. Yeah. And thank you all for sharing how your experiences was like.
Yeah, and there's so much more we'd like to share with you. More techniques for cultivating presence, more techniques for working on cultivating compassionate relationship. But of course, because of the limited nature here, we're just trying to kind of just give you a taste. Because what would it be like if you can have this sense of soothing or relief or grounding or balance sitting with a client? What would it be like to do either one of these practices? Just noticing, again, giving authority the experience you just had, whether through the visualization that I guided a few moments ago or through the practice that Karen just guided, consulting your own experience and asking, which one of these connected for me the most? Which one of these connected? And what would it be like to practice that for 2 minutes before a session? Right? Just imagine that. Right? Because this is how we build in the potential. So now I get to do this fun part of talking about interventions, which is my favorite, and I love to teach about it. And there's so much in there. I'm going to show you at the end of in a few minutes, I'm going to show you a list of the different kinds of interventions. I can't possibly talk about all of them, but I'm going to mention 2 or 3. Right, that we can build on top of our compassionate presence and when we create compassionate relationships. And again, I think that Karen and I would both want to acknowledge we get that you're already doing that with your clients, right? That you are likely already using some of these ideas, whether you gathered them from books or from other talks or other workshops, or whether you came upon it through your own human nature. You're already using some of this. This is just about being a little bit more explicit about it, because again, this is part of us and part of our work. There are elements of this that are not something new. So that, we've talked about this idea that, and this is an intervention I love. This is so simple. This looks simple. It's actually incredibly deep. This idea of being a friend. And what happens, like, again, how do we respond to a friend? When we see a friend in pain, we say, what do you need? How can I help? And I found that it is incredibly powerful to do this for myself and to help clients start to do this for themselves. And it's such an incredible thing. It's not at all difficult when we teach our clients to use the self-compassion question. And as we do this, everything happens, right? So the self-compassion question starts with mindfulness. Like, what's happening? What am I feeling? What's happening for me right now? And then the self-compassion question, which goes beyond mindfulness itself. And in fact, our mindfulness may be incomplete without this additional question. I have a subset of my clients who are people who have been meditators for years, but they still are grappling with a tremendous suffering because their mindfulness practice did not include this additional element of self-compassion, which is, when I feel this way, what do I need? This is a question. This looks simple, but this is incredibly deep, because it's not, as one client once said to me, tacos, right? That was the client's response. Well, I need tacos right now, right? But in fact, what I said was, yes, and if you had some tacos right now, let's just imagine you had those tacos and you were done. How would you feel? What would you be like now compared to before? Oh, they're like, oh, I'd be satisfied. Okay, well, then the question is, before the tacos are there, what might help you to meet that need right here, right now? What else might help you to feel satisfied? And there's a whole world of things that open up here, because this empowers clients to notice and name their needs in the moment. But also, we don't have to wait until we go somewhere else. We don't have to wait until we can go get tacos. And sometimes tacos aren't the answer, just by way of example. Sometimes tacos are the answer, but sometimes they're not. What can help to meet the need, and really starting to get down to what the needs are. and the different ways of meeting that need. Because what would it be like? What would your life be like as a therapist if, in addition to looking to other people to meet your needs, which is part of being human, it's human to get our needs met through other people and through our relationships, and it's good for us. But what if we also develop the ability alongside of that to meet some of our needs for ourselves in the moment? And that's the essence of the self-kindness, either through kind words or through visualizations, of which we have many, about being there as a support for ourselves. And this is something that is intensely powerful. So I teach clients, and of course, there's so many different techniques and interventions. I teach clients what I call the 4 N's of this, which are A, notice. The first N is notice my experience. The second N is name it, right? Notice it and name it. And of course, some of you will already be familiar. I need to give credit, of course, here to the incredible, the remarkable work of Dan Siegel, the psychiatrist and neuroscientist whose name it to tame it technique is unbelievably useful, especially when you add in the third N, which is, what do I need right now? I don't just stop with the mindfulness of naming it. And of course, we also learn to name it nicely, name it with kindness. It's another N. So notice my experience, name it, and then ask myself, what do I need right now? And of course, because my little box that I live in is, I'm kind of a behavioral therapist. Actually, I consider myself an experiential behavioral therapist. For me, it's what's the next small step that I can take right here, right now? And it really depends. Context matters a lot for life and for self-compassion. So is it 3 a.m. on a Thursday morning and I'm lying in bed awake and worrying about a meeting at work today? Or is it 2 p.m. on Thursday and I'm about to go into the meeting, right? Or is it 8 a.m. on a Monday and I'm commuting to work, right? Or is it it's Sunday and I'm going to my in-laws' house to have a meal together with my partner or spouse, right? Well, what is the context? Because it really matters when it comes to this idea of, A, what do I need right now at this moment? And can I give myself a little bit of that? And what's the next small step right here, right now? And this is when clients start to do this, this is incredibly powerful. And one of the reasons this is empowering and powerful is because no one else can tell an adult when their need has been met, even met a little bit. We don't, right? When our need has been partially met, which gives us more strength and gives us more persistence. But we each know that feeling of when we have been given a little bit of gas in our tank. When some need has been partly met, we feel it right at the moment. We feel it in our energy. And so we learn through trial and error from our own experience what our needs are and what are the ways we can do, what are the little things we can do to meet them for ourselves. And this is the essence of empowered self-compassion practice. And we do this as a therapist, and we can do this with our clients. So again, this is the empowerment. We learn to listen to ourselves. And we learn to help our clients listen to themselves. Again, going back to the point I made earlier, where's the authority? Where is the authority? The client is the authority. Especially for adult clients. For teenage clients, it can be a little bit more complicated, right? But the client's experience is the authority. What do you need? What meets your need? Knowing that it's a process of trial and error. And it's not a simple Q&A. I want to say this, because most of the time, it's going to happen when you do this with yourself. And you're for sure going to see it with clients. You're going to say, well, what do you need right now? And the answer is going to be, I don't know. And then we have a whole series of things we do to help the client learn. It's a process of deep inquiry. And Karen didn't talk about this, but inside the relationship component, inside the compassionate relationship, we have a whole method of compassionate inquiry. Not the same as Gabor Mate's compassionate inquiry. We have a whole method of compassionate inquiry to create conversations that help clients to understand their needs, name those needs, and learn how to meet those needs more effectively. And this is a process of discovering and cultivating inner resources that our clients already have. And whether that client is coming and presenting with a major depression, an anxiety disorder, emotional wounds, CPTSD, substance abuse, loneliness, every single client has inner resources. We can trust that those resources are there, and self-compassion for ourselves and for the client is a model that's going to help us. We do have to start to wind down. I want to talk a little bit about that fierce self-compassion that Karen mentioned earlier. And this is where we don't just tenderly soothe and balance ourselves when we're suffering. We also motivate ourselves with kindness. We can protect and set boundaries and motivate ourselves. For me, this is an image of Ted Lasso. I always use the image of Ted Lasso. I'm a huge fan of season 1 of Ted Lasso, the idea of a kind inner coach versus an inner critic. And we have a series of techniques to help clients to develop ways of motivating themselves with kindness and to seek out and to engage step by step with the things that matter in their lives by being a good inner coach for themselves. In fact, if you search, I actually have uploaded to Insight Timer a guided meditation for my clients it's called Building Your Own Inner Ted Lasso, to help people that I have some of my clients. I recommend they use it on Monday mornings. They're thinking about like what they want to guide themselves toward, what they want to engage with behaviorally in the coming week. Okay, so as we start to kind of get ready to wind down, I just want to talk about what are your next steps? What's the developmental sequence? How do you go from personal to clinical? And like a lot of things, it starts with your own personal self-compassion practice. In order to really bring this to bear with our clients, we have to have our own self-compassion practice, and we also have to learn the model and the skills. And I just want to show you, this is a list I use in one of my trainings when I'm teaching therapists. And this is just 2 pages of it. It's a 3 or 4 page list. These are some of the techniques and interventions, including daily practices that can be used in daily life, guided meditations, similar to what Karen guided us in, and also just topics, ways of thinking, perspectives that we share with clients in order to help transform and their obstacles and open up those inner resources. So there's quite a bit that we can learn. And then when we learn those models and skills, and as we practice them with ourselves and we start to practice with our clients, then we're integrating self-compassion into our clinical work. But really, and again, both Karen and I started as students, right? In 2016, I ran out and took the Mindful Self-Compassion course with Kristen Neff and Christopher Germer. And I was practicing and then went on the track of becoming a teacher. And that's part of what's helped me to learn the model and the skills. Teaching the program, teaching the 8-week course over and over has really helped me tightly integrate this into my clinical work. To the extent that I really want to share this with other people, but I want to say that the foundation is really making a commitment, some kind of commitment to learn and practice the self-compassion skills in our own life, especially a little bit outside our comfort zone, as we talk about and trying like a buffet, trying the different self-compassion skills. We're going to open up for Q&A in a moment, but Karen has some really valuable information she's going to share with us first.
Yeah, so this webinar is about empowering ourselves as well as our clients, right? And it's really interesting because some of my colleagues actually sent their clients to the previous MSc Mindful Self-Compassion runs that we did, and it's a really accelerated therapy for them, right? And the clients, were able to, start to practice ways to be kinder to themselves in everyday life, and it sort of like became a catalyst, for them to move forward in therapy as well, right? And also another example I thought about, which is really interesting, is that one of this participant came for our info session, right? And she, she didn't take the course then, but then she started to read up on it. And she thanked us a couple of months later, saying that that brief info session really helped to support her to be more kind to herself, and also to get better to get better in therapy as well, right? And I forwarded that email to Ben. It was very heartwarming to read that. Yeah. So let me just quickly share screen to share with you, something that we are going to offer in October. So in October, we are going to run the Mindful Self-Compassion course on Sundays in the evenings. And there are many, many benefits of self-compassion. So for instance, being able to motivate ourselves instead of, inner criticism, and being able to actually transform challenging relationships, and also to manage caregiving fatigue, which I think is really common in our field of, helping professions. Right. So it says here my screen sharing is paused, but are you able to see it, Ben? Are you able to see my screen? Fantastic. Okay, I'm going to move on. I hope the Zoom God is on my side here. So the next slide here is showing the schedule that we have, right?
We don't see the next slide, Karen.
Okay, so I might have to exit and share again. So I hope you can see it.
Perfect. Yeah, that's
Okay,
great.
so I might have to do that for everything. I think the Zoom God to pray more to the Zoom God today. Right. So we have 8 sessions on Sunday evenings, and we also have a retreat on Saturday. So it's a really wonderful opportunity to have a deeper practice of whatever that we have learned without words, and to feel it more deeply as well. Yeah. And something that I want to emphasize is it's a very much experiential learning sort of process, right? Very much similar to what we have done today. It's not something that's like a lecture that's just theoretical, but it's a lot of practice, and it's a lot of learning from one another. Right. So in that sense, we also want it to be a safe group, and not to be too big and impersonal. So we are capping it at 20 people. Right, and every participant will get a course booklet, and will get a summary after every session, and additional resources for them to practice as well. And in total, the course is about 27 hours. So we have the early bird fee that would be capped at 16 September. That's at 550 SGD, and after that it will be 600. Right. So if you'd like to have more information about it, you can scan the QR code on the left. And if you're keen to register, you can scan the QR code on the right. Yeah. So anything that you'd like to add on to this, Ben?
Thanks, Karen. And again, so this is, if you really want to make this a part of your clinical work, this is a fantastic next step. Taking the course will give you a focus. It will help you learn the core self-compassion skills and the resource building model and the common humanity techniques. And it'll give you a community of other people to practice with. Because again, this is not a form of treatment. It's not a form of therapy. It's open to anyone. So if you'd like to participate, we'd love to have you. But if you'd also like to refer, if you have clients you think would benefit, but they don't have to be clients. If you have someone in your life you care about and you think, wow, this person would really benefit from learning how to be kinder to themselves, give them that gift of saying, hey, this course could help you, because the data are incredible. The data, there's well over 100 peer-reviewed published studies of the MSC course with different groups, and in treatment groups, but also just regular groups like in organizations. It increases resilience, it increases well-being. And for those of you who are interested, I think we can probably stop the screen sharing now. We'll send you these slides. Thank you so much, Karen. I also teach a 2-day course for therapists online about how to integrate self-compassion. But I can tell you, having already taught that course online a few times, and I'll send you a link to that in an email. The next time will be in October or November. I do it with my partner, my online partner, the Academy for Human Development in Singapore. People who have already attended a self-compassion training course of one kind or another get so much more out of the clinical integration. Because in the clinical integration course, we don't teach the basic skills. In the clinical integration course, we assume that the therapist already knows some of the basic skills, but the people who already do get a lot more out of it. Anyway, but we'd love to have you join us in the MSc course. Or of course, we welcome all your questions. So if you like, should we open the floor up for a little bit of Q&A?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So if you have a question, please feel free to write it in the chat or raise your hand, and we will recognize you. And you know what? For the